Greetings, YouTube. So I have a question for my viewers. Is character creation something that we dispense with so that we can get onto the game? Or is character creation part of the game itself? Is it, in effect, a mini-game? Now, anybody who's watched my gaming videos in the past is probably going to know where I fall in this particular question. It's going to be in the latter half of the question. I consider character creation in and of itself to be a mini-game, an enjoyable mini-game. In fact, a mini-game that I engage in on a regular basis. Not just the mechanics of what a character can do based on what I would like them to do, but the whole idea of the background creation, of weaving the story of why the character is where they are now. I enjoy that. That character creation is something that is an activity I engage in on a regular basis. I have spent hours at work developing a character, and I have come back again and again to certain characters and continued to play with them in my head and imagine how would they interact with a party when they were introduced, how would they handle different situations, simply as an exercise in entertainment. And obviously, since I'm doing this in my head, I can't make references to all the books that I own, but I have a really good working understanding of D&D and Pathfinder, enough that I can do this kind of thing in my head for the most part. Details are things I'd have to work out later. For example, I'm not an expert min-maxer. I don't know all the feats in Pathfinder, and I admit that again, it's like the famous Chinese curse and blessing. There are a lot of options in Pathfinder, and that is both a bonus and a minus for that particular system. And I vacillate between thinking it's awesome and thinking it's annoying, depending on what day of the week it is, or what hour of the day. But I really enjoy that process. And I can remember way back when, say, for example, Gamma World was first introduced. I think I still possess some of the notebooks where I would just roll up characters, where I would craft them. Sometimes just randomly, and sometimes I would craft them. I might roll a few things to see where something was going, and then kind of craft the character around that, as far as mutations and such were concerned. And as one particular character, for example, his name was Flando Lizardwings. Yes, I'm well aware of that. It's a corny name, and I think I actually got Flando prior to the second Star Wars movie. I think I did. I think I didn't steal that from Lando Calrissian. I think Flando came out of my skull from somewhere. Now, I found that I updated his character as new versions of Gamma World came up through the 1992 edition. I don't think I advanced him any further than that, because I didn't really like the alternative version a whole lot, and I didn't really like unbelievably not, I didn't really like the D20 version that was done, the multi-book one. I didn't really like that one a whole lot. It was too uneven. Had some nice ideas though, but I have crafted that character multiple times, and I've imagined what he would be like under the Mutant Epoch. No, not in great detail. I imagine what he'd be like as a superhero, and to the best of my knowledge, I've never actually used Flando, but he was a human that was mutant, and he looked very reptilian. He was essentially he was a flying lizard. He had wings, arms and wings, so he was at the second set. He had a tail with a club at the end. He was a flying ankylosaurus, essentially. And I loved that character. I still love that character. I would gladly pick him up and play him in a heartbeat. But I enjoy the character creation process longer than a heartbeat. Now I've been babbling. I apologize. Part of that's because I just woke up. I guess I'm feeling a smidge philosophic. But I want to ask you folks, what do you think about character creation? Do you enjoy immersing yourself into that? And there are going to be people who are going to say, well, you need to let the character develop as you go. I said, you do. But I don't think it's wrong from day one to have a framework where you think you want your character to go. For example, I developed a character, his name escapes me at the moment. His goal was best archer in the world. Why? because his grandfather had been the best archer in the kingdom, the king's huntsman. His father was a moral failure, a failure of a father, an outlaw, an embarrassment to the family. He wanted to bring back the family name. Now, even though that's my long-term goal, best archer in the world, and I would have a kind of a framework for a Pathfinder game, what does that mean? Because the best archer. I can fill it along the way. I need a development up to day one where the game starts, and even though I have a goal, I can fill it in as I go. So it isn't a script that cannot be altered. It's an outline that needs to be filled in, and that outline is a feat tree and character direction, things like that. That's the outline, which can be changed as you go along if you need to. But I still think having a 20 level build, I'd guideline and lay out in front of you, I think is a smart idea. That's just the way I want to do it. Even if I never get past second level, I still like the idea that I knew where it was going. Let's put it this way. I put more planning into characters that I've never played than I've put into my own life. It's just a little quirk I've got. Pavel Blackhand, a sorcerer I came up with, built on the same idea of I want to be the best archer in the world, but he's a warlock. So best archer in the world is, for him, most destructive. Now, he was born a warlock, essentially, but that's what the character concept is. What if you wanted to play an archer that did the same thing, kill things at a range, but in an entirely different manner than using a bow and arrow? So, similar concept, completely different execution. And how did Pavel get where he was? I came up with a librarian, a linguist rather, who wanted to be the most acknowledged and respected linguist in the kingdom, or the country, I don't remember wherever he ends up, in the country or the world, and he's a rogue. He's based on the rogue. Why? Because of the skills. Because he's a skill monkey. His skill monkey things are linguistics and things like that, but he's kind of a Lara Croft, Indiana Jones. He needs to be able to get to books and to obscure places and glyphs and ancient carving, because that's what he does. He hunts down words and languages. And I know all of this information. I know intimate details about these characters. I work out when their first sexual encounters were, awkward or not. How did that develop who they were? The first time they realized they had unusual abilities or skills. The first bite towards their goal. The best archer, the best warlock, the best linguist. And those are the kinds of things that I want to work on for fun. So when someone hands me a game and says, okay, we're going to play in 10 minutes, you just excised a huge portion of what I want to do. Sure, I can come up with a character in 10 minutes. No problem. Tell me, okay, what role do you need played? Boom, I can play a role. But I'm not going to have the same enjoyment. That's equivalent to taking a burrito out of the freezer and throw it in a microwave. Yeah, it's food. But it isn't the same as cooking it yourself. It isn't the same as going to a good restaurant where you know they make the burritos exactly the way you like them. Every single time. And you get to have an atmosphere around you. That's what I'm looking for when it comes to character development. The burrito out of the freezer into the microwave, it works. But it's not the same thing. So, I've babbled on long enough. I want to know what you have to say about this, because that's what I love about YouTube. We get to exchange. And I find that to be like the Chinese curse and blessing. Some of the worst, some of the best things about YouTube. Pardon me, I have a cat that